A gentle golden color was cast over the expansive Forrester mansion by the sun as it set in the late afternoon. The hand of Ridge Forrester was hanging over the handle of the door that led to Brooke's bedroom as he stood there. It was possible for him to hear her moving around inside while quietly humming to herself. Under normal circumstances, this would have provided him with a sense of tranquility. Being in close proximity to Brooke had always been his secure haven. In recent times, however, something had shifted. Ridge took a short, deep breath before opening the door. When he entered the building, he was immediately confronted with a peculiar and unsettling sensation that he was unable to place, as it had been for as long as anybody could remember. The room remained the same, elegant, cozy, and replete with Brooke's trademark flourishes. The bedspread was laid in an orderly fashion. The aroma of her preferred perfume remained in the air, and the room was beautifully illuminated by the natural light that fell through the huge windows. In spite of everything, the atmosphere in the room was oppressive. While she was folding some laundry, Brooke looked up from the bed where she was sitting. As soon as she laid eyes on Ridge, her face brightened up, and her eyes instantly filled with that recognizable glow of love and affection. "The Ridge, I was completely unaware that you had entered," she responded, giving him a friendly grin. It was a smile that he returned, but it did not reach his eyes. "It's true, it was necessary for me to call you." Brooke was immediately aware of the stress that was present in his voice. The smile on her face began to fade, and she put the clothes aside in order to give him her whole attention. "Is everything okay?" Ridge took a quick look around the room as he felt the pressure of an accumulation of memories bearing down on him. There was a piece of the history located in every nook and cranny of this room, including the passionate evenings, the tender moments, the conflicts, and the reconciliations. Today, however, those recollections felt more like ghosts, following him around and making it difficult for him to breathe. "Yeah," he answered after a little pause, despite the fact that the words seemed like a lie. Recently, I've been experiencing some strange feelings." As she frowned, concern could be seen written all over Brooke's face. Getting closer to him, she reached out to touch his arm as she went closer. "What's up? In what way do you mean?" Ridge hesitatingly hesitated, making it difficult for him to articulate his emotions. Finally, he turned back and stated, "It's just this room," while waving around them. "Brooke, I'm kind of clueless. It is a different sensation now. My mood shifts whenever I'm in this location." A look of bewilderment appeared on Brooke's face. "Does it differ? How?" Ridge heaved a sigh and ran his hand through his length of hair. "I am unable to express it. It's almost as if everything in this room brings back memories of our past. The happy days for sure, but also all the suffering and the errors that we made. It is simply overwhelming. Uncomfortable is the word that comes to me whenever I'm in this room. I have no idea why." The expression on Brooke's face changed from one of concern to one of hurt as she took a step back. "Does it feel awkward within the confines of our bedroom?" Ridge appeared to be in pain when he heard the pain in her words, yet he did not retreat. "I'm sorry, Brooke, but it's not only the bedroom. It is I've been having the impression that we are unable to move forward, as if we are caught in a never-ending cycle of attempting to make things work, but constantly finding ourselves back where we started. When I walk into this room, it's as if all of that information hits me at the same time." Brooke remained fixed on him, her gaze scoring his face for any clues she might have. Although she had always been under the impression that their love was powerful enough to triumph over any challenge, the fact that Ridge was speaking in such a manner caused her heart to hurt. "I'm sorry, Ridge, but I don't get it. It's amazing how much we've been through together. We have never failed to find a means to communicate with one another again. Is this happening at this very moment?" Ridge heaved another sigh before turning his back on her and surveying the scene beyond the window. "It's hard for me to say. It could be that everything that has happened with Taylor is to blame, or it could just be that the years of going back and forth have finally caught up with me. I can't say for sure. One thing I am certain of, however, is that I cannot continue to act as though everything is fine when in reality it is not." An overwhelming sense of dread began to well up within of Brooke. "Cliff, if you please refrain from saying that. We are able to fix this. Things have always been fixed by us in the past. With a look of melancholy in his eyes, Ridge turned his attention back to her. I'm not so sure this time, Brooke. It was easy to feel the tension in the room, which was heavy and dense like fog hanging between them. While Brooke was attempting to make sense of what Ridge was saying, she moved to the side of the bed and sat down. After everything that they had been through, she believed that they had reached a point of stability. Nevertheless, it appeared like cracks were beginning to show around the edges once more. She had not anticipated the appearance of cracks. Is this about Taylor? Last but not least, Brooke inquired, her voice hardly rising above a whisper. The mere mention of Taylor's name caused Ridge's jaw to clench considerably. In an effort to tell himself that his feelings for his ex-wife were in the past, he had attempted to avoid thinking about her. He had tried to convince himself that his affections for her were buried under the weight of everything that had occurred between them. The reality, however, was much more convoluted than that alone. When Ridge finally conceded, I don't know, his voice was strained. Perhaps, I'm not going to state that I have feelings for Taylor or that I feel the desire to be with her, but despite my best efforts, I have been thinking about her. In particular, as of late. When he spoke those words, Brooke's heart sunk. Taylor had always been a part of Ridge's life because of their children, but hearing that she was still on his mind in this way was like receiving a hit to the belly. She had always known that Ridge would want Taylor to be a part of his life. I thought we were past all of this, Brooke remarked, her voice shaking slightly as she spoke. Ridge, I didn't realize that you choose me. Despite everything, you decided to go with us. I did choose you, Ridge stated in a hurry as he moved closer to her. Moreover, I continue to adore you, Brooke. This has not been altered. However, I am unable to disregard these emotions. There is no way I can act as if they are not present. Brooke looked up at him, tears welling up in her eyes as she did so. So what exactly are you claiming? Does it seem as though you are having second thoughts about us, with regard to our marriage? Ridge shook his head at the response, despite the fact that it was not as obvious to him as he had hoped it would be. To be honest, Brooke, I have no idea what I'm saying. I am only aware that I require some time and space in order to work things out. As she stood up, Brooke's feelings were churning around inside of her. Where is space? It's not the first time we've been through this, Ridge. Despite the fact that we have engaged in the practice of taking space, it has consistently resulted in the same outcome. We have returned to one another. Therefore, why should we go through it once more? As Ridge scratched the back of his neck, he realized that his frustration was beginning to surface. Because it's possible that things will be different this time around, it is possible that this time we need to take a step back and figure out what it is that we want, as well as what is best for both of us. The look of surprise on Brooke's face was accompanied by a shake of her head. It's hard for me to believe. You're ready to just give up after everything that we've been through, are you? Ridge stated assertively, I'm not going to give up, but I'm also not going to keep pretending like everything's fine when it's not. Trying to make sense of what he had said, Brooke stared at him for a considerable amount of time. Although she had always been under the impression that their love could withstand any storm, she now had the impression that the ground was shifting beneath her feet. If you walk out that door, Brooke said, her voice cracking, I don't know if I can keep waiting for you to figure things out, Ridge. Ridge was the one who entered the room. It has been years since I have waited for you, waiting for you to return to me and to select me as your partner. I am not sure if I will be able to do it again. Ridge's chest tightened as he listened to the agony in her words. In the past, he had never intended to cause her any harm. However, he was unable to deny the rising unease he experienced in their relationship, particularly in this bedroom, which had been more of a jail than a sanctuary from the beginning of their partnership. Ridge said, I don't want to hurt you, Brooke, without making any sound. Nevertheless, I have to be truthful with myself as well as with both of us. I require some time to figure out what it is that I truly desire. The tears that Brooke had been holding back finally came out, and she turned her back on him, unable to concentrate on him any longer. As she hushed, then go, she said. If that's what you need, then go. Ridge paused for a little period, divided between remaining and departing from the situation. In spite of the fact that it would entail crushing Brooke's heart, he ultimately realized that he required some distance. He did not utter a single word before turning around and leaving the bedroom, leaving behind a gentle click as the door closed behind him. Immediately after he left, Brooke threw herself onto the bed, and her tears filled the room that was suddenly empty. Brooke experienced an even greater sense of suffocation in the bedroom after Ridge had departed. As memories of their life together flooded her mind, she lay on the bed for what seemed like hours, staring up at the ceiling. She was unable to stop thinking about them. This room was packed with a story that had been recounted for decades, one that was full of love, passion, and heartache. Every piece of this room had a story. She recalled the evening that Ridge had proposed to her in this very room, kneeling down with tears in his eyes. Ridge had been down on one knee. She recalled the innumerable nights that they had spent laying in each other's arms, murmuring promises of a life together that would last forever. In addition, she recalled the fights, which included the scream matches, the tears, and the never-ending cycle of falling apart and then coming back together again. It was much to bear. It made it difficult for her to breathe because the weight of it was pressing down on her chest. She got out of bed and began walking around the room in an effort to dispel the mounting sense of terror that she was experiencing. But it seemed that wherever she turned, she found something that brought Ridge back to her mind. The photograph of the couple taken during their honeymoon in Paris, which is displayed on the bedside. The picture that Ridge had commissioned to be displayed on the wall as a present for the occasion of their anniversary. There was still a trace of his scent on the sheets that were on the bed. Brooke came to a halt in front of the enormous mirror that was located next to the dresser and gazed at her own reflection. She appeared to be exhausted and older than she had recalled. The years that she had spent battling for her connection with Ridge had taken their toll on her, and at this point, she was unsure of how much more combat she had left in her arsenal. As she wiped away the traces of her tears, she sat down in front of the mirror and stared at herself. It seemed as if she was whispering to herself, "What am I doing? How did we end up here again?" From the beginning, Brooke had the conviction that love would be sufficient, that she and Ridge would always find their way back to each other, regardless of the challenges they had in their relationship. On the other hand, she was uncertain for the very first time today. Ridge drove about Los Angeles without any particular destination in mind, his head a jumbled mass of thoughts and feelings. When he left Brooke's bedroom, he got the sensation that he was unable to breathe, but now that he was outside of the house, he felt just as disoriented as he had before. While he was attempting to make sense of all that was going on, he pulled over to the side of the road and rested his head against the steering wheel. He then closed his eyes. The sudden sensation of being suffocated in that space was a mystery to him. What was it about being in that room with Brooke, his wife and the woman he had chosen, that made him feel so uncomfortable? Even though he didn't want to accept it, a good portion of him was aware of the response.